The kinds of questions that I've been asking are these really annoying questions like, how is it, Governor Newsom, that California has more people dead than 13 of the 20 most populated countries on the planet, including China? That's a pretty awkward question for Governor Newsom. In fact, he may not be able to bear more questions because that's a really uncomfortable question. So California has more people dead than 13 of the 20 most populated countries on Earth. That's not good.
Hi, I'm Dr. Roger Seheult. Over the past 4 years, we've produced top quality videos explaining concepts in medicine clearly. These courses are the product of years of experience and preparation that includes only these things. Number one, you either need to know it for the test, or number two, you need to know it to become a great medical professional. Before I became a physician, I worked for a national test prep company, and I taught the MCAT and the USMLE. Now, I'm board certified in internal medicine, pulmonary diseases, critical care medicine, and sleep medicine. I still have a busy clinical practice and actually treat the diseases that I talk about. It is this experience that separates MedCram.com from all the others. I know what kind of questions show up on the test because I write the test questions for medical students. I know what's important, and now you will too. Join us at MedCram.com.
Dr. Seheult is using the maps. He's using the map.
Are the gold standard for therapeutics.
Okay, so let's talk about vitamin D. The first thing you've got to understand is that vitamin D is not just a vitamin. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. And if you notice here by the structure, you'll see that it is a steroid hormone, which means it can go into the nucleus. It can go through membranes and make effective changes.
I sent you an email saying, well, how is it, first of all, that there's more people dead in Ohio than all of Japan? All right, so I tend to look at things a little bit differently, right? I come up with, I don't know if you're familiar with Freakonomics. All right, so I look at things in a...
My entire academic life has been devoted to figuring out tricky ways to get at causality.
We kind of say, what if this thing that everybody thinks is so really isn't so? It sounds ridiculous, but you see it all the time, people trying to fight against or build up something that they're sure is connected to something else, which it turns out just isn't.
The closest thing to a worldview in Freakonomics is that incentives matter. And if you can figure out what people's incentives are, you have a good chance of guessing how they're going to behave.
They say money doesn't buy happiness. Wanna bet?
I don't have to ever have seen a sumo match. I can go in the data and I can tell you that there was rampant cheating going on.
When there's an incentive to cheat, a small percentage of people always will.
Could students increase their test scores simply by giving them a financial incentive?
$50?
You are getting straight A's from me. Yes.
Clear the numbers are dropping. What's not clear is why.
The line between like economist and criminal is incredibly thin.
And what about journalists?
No line.
Oh, that is so cool.
You give people permission to challenge conventional wisdom and to ask a different kind of question entirely.
And I guess from reading their stuff, I just kind of learned to look at things differently. So I look at Ohio and I compare Ohio to Japan. I look at California and I compare California to the entire country of China, the entire country of Korea, the entire nation of Nigeria and Tanzania. And California has more dead. Now, these are not comparisons that I hear Anderson Cooper making. These are not comparisons that I hear on ABC News. The kinds of questions that I've been asking are these really annoying questions like, how is it, Governor Newsom, that California has more people dead than 13 of the 20 most populated countries on the planet, including China? That's a pretty awkward question for Governor Newsom. In fact, he may not be able to bear more questions because that's a really uncomfortable question. So California has more people dead than 13 of the 20 most populated countries on Earth. That's not good. That's not good.
No.
That's not good by any measure. I'm not pinning this on you. I'm pinning this on your governor. So, California has more people dead than China and Pakistan, Nigeria with over 200 million people, Bangladesh and Japan, Ethiopia, Egypt, Vietnam, the Congo, and Thailand combined. How is it that California has more people dead than Pakistan, Ethiopia, Egypt, Vietnam? Your cognitive dissonance should be kicking in right now, and you should be pretty nauseous looking at this. Why was this not on CNN? Why did Anderson Cooper not point this out? Why is Rachel Maddow not reporting to you that you've got more people dead in California than all these countries combined? Don't you feel like, whoa, what? Why does Ohio have more people dead than 11 of the 20 most populated countries on Earth? Ohio. I mean, the Amish live in Ohio. I mean, they're riding horse-drawn buggies, right? And the Mennonites, right? They're still there.
Pennsylvania, too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This is not the most densely populated state in the country, Ohio. And yet, there's more dead in Ohio than 11 of the 20 most populated countries on Earth. According to the Associated Press, influenza disappeared. Well, by way of introduction, I'm the guy that wrote the paper back in October that said not only did influenza disappear in South Africa and Chile and the United States and Australia, but if you bother to spend another hour looking at the WHO's system, you're going to find there's no influenza anywhere on Earth except for Cambodia and Vietnam. It's gone. And it disappeared at the same time pretty much everywhere. Week 11 to week 12, influenza disappeared. Now, the CDC published a paper saying it went away in Chile, South Africa, Australia, and United States. And I read the paper, and then I went to the website for the WHO. And I said, yeah, what about Sweden? What about Switzerland? What about Iceland? What about Hungary? What about Austria? What about the Czech Republic? Why did you guys stop after 4 countries? It's gone. How is it gone? How did influenza just disappear, poof, at the same time all over the world? That's remarkable. I start looking at these other causes of death for kids, for school-age kids. I'm looking at 0 to 14. And I start to realize, wait a second, more kids have died from asthma than from coronavirus? That's another one. A little hard to swallow that one, Dr. Fauci. And then the other issue I have has to do with therapeutics. Here we are almost a year into this, and the only FDA-approved therapeutic is remdesivir. Am I wrong about that? The only FDA-approved therapeutic treatment for somebody who has tested positive is remdesivir. There's no other approved treatment.
I think it's because the Gilead made the application not only for emergency use, but also made the application for approval, which they can do if they choose to. I don't know if all of the other companies that got emergency use authorization are going to go through the same lengthy, costly process of getting approval, because they essentially are getting the end product of what they want, which is their product used.
We'll come back to that in a minute. But the net of it is, if you test positive for coronavirus, all right, so let's say I'm one of your patients and I come into your place and I've got a fever, I've got all the symptoms, right? And you test me and I test positive. There's no FDA-approved therapeutic that you can, you're my physician, you can prescribe off, right? I mean, like, you can prescribe other things, but...
It's off-label. Yeah, it's all off-label.
But there's no FDA-approved therapeutic for coronavirus right now other than remdesivir, right? So
that's correct.
So that's a fact. So then my question to Fauci is, well, this Pfizer vaccine, was that approved by the FDA? And I'm hearing a whole lot of real loosey-goosey terminology in the news. According to it's not approved or licensed. It's authorized for emergency use, which is not approved. And so the question that I have for you as a physician is, if I don't consider that I'm in a high-risk group, right? Or let's say my wife is not in a high-risk group, and she wants to wait until the Pfizer vaccine is approved, or the Moderna, either one. How long do we estimate we will be waiting for the full clinical trial approval to complete, rather than the because emergency use, I got to sign something that says I realize it's emergency, etc., right? I got to sign something. If it was fully approved and licensed, I might want to wait for that. Now, the question is that another 6 months, 9 months, a year? I don't have no clue what kind of...
It may never happen.
All right. So that's something I think we need to discuss and know about more, right? The Moderna vaccine, same thing. According to Moderna, it's not been approved or licensed. It's authorized for emergency use. So so they gave you clinical trial results, but the question is, are we still running the trials? Are we expecting that by summer, by Christmas, that it will have been approved and we will have more clinical trial results? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not hearing any talk about that.
Yeah, the answer will lie in whether or not the applicant decides to put the process through for approval.
Okay.
So if they decide never to do that, then there would never be an approval of the. I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm just saying it's really up to them, because they have to make the application. From my understanding, I'm not an expert in this process. I'm learning just like you are. But my understanding is, it sounds like your understanding, which is that it's emergency use authorized. The burden of proof is similar. I don't know actually specifically where it would be different, but I know that the applications are different.
I'm just curious if they're still running the trials. In other words, are there 30,000, 40,000 people participating in trials globally?
Oh, yeah.
And they're expecting further results that they then will be submitting for that approval. And people might say, well, if that's the case, I might want to wait till the summer if that's when they're, I don't know the time frames for this kind of stuff at all.
So there are people in the studies and they are still looking at them for endpoints. They are still following those 30,000 or so people in those studies. Whether or not that will come to fruition in an approval application, I don't know that. But I can say this, that the problem that they're having in those studies is that it's an ethical problem, because you have a placebo control arm in that study. And those are real people. Those are individuals. Those could be friends or family. And,
they're being given a placebo.
And so should they be forced to stay as a placebo, especially when it seems as though the data is showing that this is efficacious? So the problem that they're having is that a lot of these placebo controls are wanting the vaccine.
Understood.
And so they're losing placebos.
Understood. So that the audience knows, the data that I'm about to show you and the charts I'm about to show you is all coming directly from the CDC's website. Now, they changed their website recently. I'd love to be able to take credit for it, but who knows why they would change it. But they've made some changes to it recently, but a lot of the data that I'm showing you came from the screen that you see right here just 2 weeks ago, February 17th. And what you see is that the CDC breaks down the coronavirus deaths by age group. Okay? And I don't know if I need to zoom in some more here on the slide. If you can you make out this left-hand side column where it says 1 to 4 or 5 to 14? Can you see that?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so if we look at 5 to 14, that's kindergarten to 8th grade, roughly. 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever that is. So what do they call that? K to 8 or whatever, right?
Yep.
What's the next column say? How many all deaths involving COVID?
All deaths.
How many?
Correct.
How many?
72.
The entire country. So it's $180 billion to reopen the schools, and 72 kids are dead. And we close the schools. But more kids drown. More kids die from stroke. Stroke? I didn't even know kids had strokes. More kids are dying from stroke than coronavirus. More kids are dying from asthma than coronavirus. And we don't vaccinate kids for tuberculosis.
No.
And more kids are dying from asthma than coronavirus. And we don't vaccinate kids for tuberculosis. More kids are drowning. Should we spend the $180 billion on life preservers, or should we fill the swimming pools or close the beaches? Should we mandate crash helmets in automobiles? We got 1,089 kids died in automobile accidents. Should we mandate crash helmets like NASCAR? If you're younger than 18, you have to wear a crash helmet in the car, because we'll save 1,000 kids' lives if we do that. And if we spend $180 billion on life preservers, and we buy a life preserver for every kid, and we just mandate you have to wear your life preserver all the time, because we don't know when you're going to drown. So you have to wear them all the time, because more kids are drowning than are dying from COVID. So if we're talking about saving children's lives, I think we need to look at the swimming pools and the beaches, close them to kids, or get everybody life preservers, and you're going to need to wear them all the time. Just like a vaccine protects you from something all the time that you may or may not get. A life preserver protects you from something that you may or may not die from, right? But more kids are dying from drowning than from COVID, and more kids are dying from asthma than COVID. And more kids are dying from stroke than COVID, and we don't vaccinate kids for tuberculosis.